Hi traders, welcome back to Trading for Wealth and Freedom. In this channel, I talk about both my trading observations and my trading strategies, but from an algo trader's perspective. If you like contents like this and find me helpful, please like and subscribe. Now let's get back to today's video. So it's time that we roll off our sleeves and do some coding. I'm an algo trader, and I've used Python's MetaTrader5 extensively to get data, to enter trades, and manage positions and accounts. However, recently we've got a nasty news about Apple banning the MetaTrader4 and MetaTrader5 iOS and iPadOS apps on Apple's App Store. Although the existing apps, and those are the MT4 and MT5 apps that are already installed, they will work smoothly without a hitch. This move from Apple is somewhat worrisome. I do have to say that although as an algo trader, I don't trade on iOS or iPadOS apps at all. I simply trade on the desktop apps, and they are so far okay. In addition, Windows desktop apps for MT4 and MT5 have no issues whatsoever. And those are the apps, the Windows apps, those are the ones that I'm actually using. So although Apple has banned the MT4, MT5, this move doesn't really impact me. Given the news, however, I've started looking for alternatives to MT4 and MT5 as an algo trader, to place trades and manage my accounts. I think that's prudent to look for alternatives given the tide seems to have started to change. And my weapon of choice right now is Oanda's API. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to use Oanda Pi v20 module together with Python to get market data on the Forex market. Let's get started. So in order to do this, we first of all boot up our Jupyter notebook and start importing some of the important Python modules, Pandas, NumPy, those are the basic. We will also like to import datetime, and most important of all, the Oanda Pi v20. Now, the next thing to do is to set up the current datetime as a datetime object. And because as an algo trader, we're using the code to obtain the market data, and we would like to have a start time as the time horizon. And we set that to be at the current moment minus looking back 100 days. And we realized that, time delta needs to be imported first, and time delta is a function inside the datetime module. So from datetime, we would like to import time delta so that we are able to use time delta directly, like so. And then we start setting up the UTC from as a new object. And the UTC from is going to be basically an object that says and UTC from is basically going to be an object that takes the start times, year, month, date to be a datetime object, like so. We would also like to set up UTC2 to be up to the current second based on the now datetime object. The datetime object is in line 7. So we set up UTC2 like this. And then run the code. We realize that we have an error. So we have to go back to include we have to go back and modify the code this way and double check UTC from and UTC2 to be the desired datetime value. So we are okay, and we understand that because Oanda requires the from time and date of from time and to time to be a string. So we will have to deal with that later, but we need to double check the documentation. And the documentation right now, we can see the documentation from here. And also to use the Oanda API, we will need the API secret phrase and the API key. And to do that, you can just obtain, you don't have to actually open up an API. You don't actually have to open up a Oanda account to use it. Once you get into the account portal, you can then find the link to their documentation. Oanda Pi v20 is the Python module we're going to use, and there are sample codes and their documentation online, but we're going to actually use the documentation published by the broker themselves to figure out how we're gonna get the market data. So once we do that, we will import the particular modules, the particular class inside the Oanda Pi v20. But first of all, we import the modules and then import the specific class inside the modules. And then we basically copy the code from here, and then we will have to paste in our own access token. And that, as I demonstrated earlier, was coming directly from your own account. And you generate the API key and pass it in there. And we will use the particular syntax to get the candle history. And we will use instruments candle factory for now. The instruments will have to be passed in directly, the instrument ticker symbol for the particular financial instruments that we're interested in. But there are many more things that we also have to pass in. Right now will be the access token for Oanda. And I am going to use Euro US dollars as a pair for the financial instruments. And keep in mind that this is Euro US dollars has to be separated by an underscore. This is the signal convention for Oanda as a broker. As for access token, you have to put in the string that you obtain from the account portal for your own account. And that can be found under Managing API. Can be found under the Managing API section in your account. Once we have set up the actual access token, then you can just pass it in. And the params is a Python dictionary that requires the from the from value, which is what we have set up to be in line 15, UTC from. The to will be the UTC2 under line 16. We also need granularity. Basically, inside Forex, you need to specify what level of charts you want to look at. We're now using hourly charts, so that's hour 1. Okay, so instruments, params, these are the necessary, the required instruments is required that you have to pass in. And here is the documentation that allows you to pass it in. It has talked about the parameter called count. So we're also going to pass in that for now. The documentation, by executing the code, we have not identified the instrument. So we actually, inside our code is called pair. And now we execute that, there's no error, and it's called rates. In order to get the actual rates, you have to use the client to request the rates. So by executing the client, we realize that, oh, right, generator object has no attribute method. And this was actually because the access token right now, it's an empty string. We haven't actually copy and paste the actual value for the API secret. So that has to be addressed. I already have it, so I'm just going to paste in, I'm going to copy and paste my existing code, my existing access token. If you don't have it, you'll have to generate one for yourself. So instead of importing instrument candles factory, to get the historical data, we actually would use instruments candles, the instrument candles class, rather than using instruments candle factory. So after I specify environment to equal to live, and then change the UTC from to actual strings, and that will be the year, month, YYYY, MMDD separated by hyphen, because that's what we have. We have month, year, month, date, hour, and minutes. And we still have a problem, and that is basically is in the wrong format. This current format to be pasted in. Both from and to time has to be exactly like that. And now we have a new error. Basically, it says if you have to and from, you don't need to use count. So we delete the count. And add back the closing curly bracket for the Python dictionary. Execute that. And now we finally get the client request response object. This response object is a Python dictionary. And we see that we would like to assign this client request back to a new object. And because it's a Python dictionary, we see that the important parts is under the candles key. So we access them this way. And then we call out data. Now data is of this particular format. And then we can this is actually a list of dictionary, and now we can put them into a Pandas data frame. And notice that the mid column is not a clean one, and we can call out the data types for each of the column. So we know that the column called mid, MID, we would need further processing to clean that up.